Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to make a Google form to record the information from our survey. So we're going to start at forms.google.com. It actually redirects over here, but the URL is forms.google.com, and it should give you a picture that looks like this with a lot of different templates. That purple plus is a blank, and everything else is a template. So you can choose, you and your group, whichever of those two you want. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do when we get there is we're going to give it a title before we even go to the first question. So if you're doing a one question survey, you're going to type your survey question in the top part. Okay? And then you are going to say your names, and if you have a group number, if we did give you a group number, you're going to type your names and your group number there. Mikey, Joe, and Becky. Okay, so I just made up some names. So we've started with our title. We've started with our group number. Okay, it's very possible that we have to talk about it as teachers. We're going to transform this into one Google form, but you guys are creating this Google form that everyone could theoretically fill in. Okay, so now you'll see it only gives me one question. Now, conveniently for me, I only need one question in most cases. Now, I have short answer text. I don't want short answer. I want a linear scale on a scale of 1 to 5. No, wait, I don't. I didn't eat necessarily 5 today. I want a short answer. And I can just give an answer here. The only problem with this is that if somebody wants to write the word none, N-O-N-E, right, instead of the number 0, it's going to be annoying for me. I could choose multiple choice, right? I could do 0 and more than 0. So that's how we do multiple choice, right? Or I could do a checkbox. That's if I'm surveying people and I want to give them multiple options, right? Blue, green, red, all of the above, that kind of thing. Or I can do a drop down menu where they have choices and they get to click on it. Okay. And there's also a multiple choice grid, but I think that's more complicated than we need. So basically, most of you are probably going to find that the easiest thing to do is just do short answer, and that's fine. Now we're going to want to click here to make this question required, okay? Now if we need a second question, we can add another question. Now see that red star? That means this question is required. Now say you're asking about shoe size and you want to differentiate between the boys and the girls, right? So you're going to want to add a second question for that. Are you a boy or a girl? Okay? And the Google form is actually really smart. It figured out what I was trying to ask and it gave me 3 choices. Okay? You can choose to take away prefer not to say, or you could leave it in however you feel is appropriate. But we're going to want to make this question required because we don't want to get stuck with data we can't use, right? We want to make sure that if we have a shoe size 7.5, we know whether that's a boy 7.5 or girl 7.5, because if we don't know, we can't compare. If we're not talking in the same unit, right? Female shoe sizes are physically different than male shoe sizes. It's a different scale. If we're not talking in the same unit, we can't compare. Okay, so most of us are just going to make one question, okay? We are going to put our group number in here. We're going to put our names in here. We're going to have a short answer unless we chose to do something slightly different. Some of us are going to add what I would call demographic data. Are you a boy or a girl? Okay. So now what comes next? So if you ever want to add any more information, you can add more questions. And if you put in too many questions, you can delete them. I'm a little cautious about showing you this because people were deleting all their work last year. But say you asked an extra question. Oh, I duplicated the question and I didn't want it. I can delete it. Okay? Don't delete anything you don't want. There's a little undo button that you can't see. I'll make the screen bigger. There's a little undo button that appears at the bottom of your screen. Oh, now you can't see it. as soon as you delete something, but basically things tend to go away. So you want to make sure you don't accidentally delete your questions. So most of us only need 2 survey questions. We could play with our fonts. We can add, I just added another question. We could play with our fonts. We could do all kinds of things. And you should feel free to play around with this. We can add pictures. We can add videos. We can add additional sections. We're not going to do this. But that is what we could do if we wanted, okay? So the next thing we're going to do before we do anything at all is we're going to click on the place where it says Untitled Form. And it's actually just going to give us this title. You could change the title if you want. You might want to add Group 4 to your title, okay? And now we're going to do settings. Now the settings are pretty important, okay? Now, you should be working out of your JDS email account. I'll show you in a second how to check that you are. We are going to collect email addresses, okay? And the reason we're going to do that is not to say, oh, well, Joey ate 7 eels today, but to just make sure that Joey did his homework, because everyone's going to have to fill out the form. So we're going to collect the email addresses so we know who filled out the form. So we're going to click that. Okay. We are going to restrict to CES JDS users. You cannot use a personal email account. And we're going to limit it to 1 response. If you ate 7 eels, we don't want you putting in twice and therefore messing up our data, okay? Now, it's nice to say edit after submit. That just means that, like, if you did it, you can always go back and change it. But you don't have to do that. It can just be that if they made a mistake, they made a mistake. Okay, so now we're going to save it. Okay. And now we have to send it, okay? So, when you add collaborators, that's teachers. So, for example, I'm going to add Ms. Levitt, okay? And I'm going to send her, there's a little send button down here that you guys can't see. I'm going to send it to her. I can add a message, right? Here is I'm going to use proper email etiquette. So I'm going to write, Dear Mrs. Levitt, here is my math homework. Thank you. And then I'll write Ms. LB, right? And then I'll hit send, okay? I can also, you guys can't see this part, I'll show you. You also can send a copy to yourself, so you have a record of it, okay? Sometimes it's nice to do that just in case there's any question about whether you did the right thing. Okay, and then we